Welcome to the business discussion from the North East and Yorkshire Business Network on LinkedIn. An important element of the green economy and the drive towards net zero is the increase in the use of electric vehicles. Recognition PR, my own firm, is getting into this. 3 of my staff have got electric vehicles over the last few months. Here they are, a Peugeot, a Nissan Leaf and a hybrid Golf. They're all very enthusiastic about it. And today I'm talking to 3 people who are involved in the flow of electricity from the power stations to the vehicles. I've got Alex Hinchcliffe from Fulcrum, who lay the infrastructure, Dan Martin, the CEO of Elmtronics, and Jeff Aynsley, who's General Manager of Bristol Street Motors, Hyundai, Silverlink, Tyneside. Let's start with a look at the infrastructure, and there are more than 30,000 charge points across the UK in around 11,000 locations. Now that's quite a lot, certainly not as many as it should be. Let's talk first to Alex Hinchcliffe and ask Alex from Fulcrum, what are you doing to help develop the UK charging infrastructure?
A big part of what we do, as you've alluded to, is we support developers, construction in industrial and commercial environments and in residential environments as well. So on the larger projects where there's a bigger connection required is where we can add the most advantage, I guess, because we're used to working on big projects and bringing power for bigger environments for a large number of chargers.
I suppose it's always easier to forward plan an infrastructure than retrofit an infrastructure. Are you finding that developers are actually thinking about the size of the wire and where the wire goes to make sure that motor vehicles can get charged? Have they bought into this?
So that's a great question. More and more so now they are doing, as it's become a planning condition and it's likely to become a building regulation in the not too distant future. So depending on regionally where you're based will depend on what that planning condition looks like. So you're quite right. It's about early engagement and collaboration to allow us as the expert to provide the right consultation to the developer or to the end user for the right sort of solution. Because we look at multi-utility solutions, it makes sense to have a requirement for EV charging to be thought about at the same time as putting in the other infrastructure, so that you only dig up the environment once and you can do it most effectively at the beginning of the exercise. And I think that brings in an important question, which is future-proofing. So whilst you've got planning conditions today for the here and now, part of the early engagement piece is for us to consult with the end user and say, over a period of time, the footprint is going to change. The penetration, the number of EV drivers will increase. So can we provide the infrastructure that's right for today, but put you a solution in place that's also going to be functional tomorrow?
Okay, let's turn to Dan from Elmtronics. A couple of slides before we get in with you, Dan. First, the workplace charging scheme. It reduces the cost of charge point installation by up to 14 grand. And the next one, businesses can install up to 40 sockets with a grant of around £350 per socket. You installed mine. I only needed 2 because we're a small business. In fact, actually, we might need more, strange enough. It's amazing when the people see their electric cars arriving, suddenly others want them. Do you incorporate the grant? Are you going to make it easy, the business owner who wants to fit a charge point?
Yeah, one of the big advantages at the moment is this workplace charging grant from the Office of Low Emission Vehicles, which, as you say, is £350 per socket, up to 40 sockets. So what it does, it greases the wheels, if you like, to help businesses to get charging infrastructure in place. Yeah.
It struck me that the barriers to getting it done were the cost. It isn't that expensive, but there is a cost. Then there is applying for grants. I don't want to be bothered with all that. I need someone to help do that. And then the planning it. Where does the wire go? Does the landlord of the site need to have a plan? Are you able to help with all that stuff?
Yeah, we get it. We deliver a complete end-to-end solution for customers, and really that's really the tailor-made service that we've put together, because we realise this is a new technology. It's not something that people are used to procuring and unfamiliar with. So what we try and do is really help them and hold the hand right from start to finish. And that's everything from working with organisations like Fulcrum on the connection side of things, but also right through from civils, electrical, and also the connection side of things. So what's interesting, charge points are a little bit like mobile phones, where you have the hardware, which is a charge point, but you have the network as well. And Elmtronics has developed a network called Hubster, and it's one of the top 5 networks in the UK now. And what that does is it allows businesses to actually to monitor and charge a fee if they want as well for the use of the charging equipment. So actually they can derive a revenue from it, which is quite interesting, and that helps mitigate the cost.
All my staff have a dongle. It's a bit like a mini store card, a barcode reader, and I could give them it for free. I could reclaim the actual cost, or I could make a profit. I go for the middle one. I reclaim the actual cost. But I suppose that is part of the service.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's a really important part as well, because if you had guys that were taking their vehicles home, for example, and you were a fleet manager and you wanted to monitor and repay those individuals for the usage at home, we can link that to the back office network as well. So it's a complete solution for your business needs.
Let's go to Bristol Street Motors Hyundai and Jeff Aynsley. Just got a couple of minutes left. Quick couple of slides on the numbers. 373,000 plug-in EVs or hybrids in the country today, and 164,000 pure electric cars. That's accurate data up to the end of last month. It sounds like a lot, but there are 28 million cars in the country. What is the demand in your showrooms?
I think the demand is increasing and customer confidence is growing. It's interesting that obviously we're on this call with Alex and Dan, because infrastructure really was the biggest holdback to consumer demand, ordinary consumer demand. And now that that's improving, we're seeing huge increases. That combined with the legislation and the taxation differences for businesses. In fact, we've gone to, last month, we had almost 20% of our sales were EVs.
Now, some of those EVs are pure electric, and I know Hyundai does quite a few pure electric vehicles, but there are hybrids as well. And some of my staff wanted hybrids because they didn't have charge points at home, or they wanted to just get used to it. It seemed to be an entry-level EV. But the government wants to ban hybrids. Well, what's your view of that?
Well, it's a difficult one because by introducing them as a hybrid, yes, you're right. A lot of people see that as it's their entry to cleaner motoring, I suppose. It's also significantly cheaper than full EV, which, if the money's coming out of your own pocket, obviously is clearly a factor. In terms of banning them by 2035 or 2040, depending on which paper you read, I think it's probably going to be a little bit of a stretch, that, because when you think there's only, in pure EV, if there's maybe 500,000 cars available on Auto Trader today, there'll only be about 1% of those will be full EV. Clearly, by kickstarting the business side of things, and a lot of people are taking them as end users because of the taxation benefits, that they're going to start to filter through into the used car market. So it's going to take quite a while, I think, to get into full EV or zero emissions. So I think it's probably a little bit of a step too far, maybe, to start talking about banning hybrid as well. If
I come for a full EV from you, though, you've got some decent models. What's the top selling model at your place at Hyundai Bristol Street Motors Silverlink?
We do very well with Kona, which it's sort of mid-sized cars, practical SUV, very well equipped. And when you take the grants into consideration and you take into account the fuel savings that you have if you do an average mileage, in actual fact, the cars are starting to become a lot better value for money, whereas they were perceived as being very expensive to start with.
One last point, Jeff. You've seen my staff's cars. 3 of them wanted cars, but the driver, although the cars are lovely, wasn't that, was it? It was benefit in kind.
Yeah.
Tell us just quickly about that.
Well, I think that's definitely going to, but as with any change that the government want to back, if they back it with legislation and taxation, clearly that just accelerates the whole thing. If they can get another however many thousand cars on the road this year because there'll be a saving to the end user, clearly that'll change when the market changes. But if they can accelerate that process of change, those cars will feed through into the used car market. Once there's one EV in your street, the guy next door thinks about buying one. The whole thing just accelerates, and they can do that. They can do it at the flick of a switch by making them free for company car users.
2 of these guys are saving $3,000 a year plus, and one of them's saving $1,600 a year. And believe me, that's demand. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Let's keep the EV revolution rolling on.